You're welcome to the Economy and Politics Show, where we discuss key political economic developments as it affects households. Happy New Month to all our viewers. This edition will focus on August 2022 key socio-economic developments to watch in Nigeria. Before we begin, let us give you a recap of some of our key stories from last week. The Federal Account Allocation Committee for the month of June 2022 shared 802.4 billion naira across the federal, state, and local governments. Of this amount, the federal government received 321.86 billion naira, the state governments received 245.42 billion naira, while local governments got 182.3 billion naira. This meant that FAC allocation for the first half of the year 2022 rose to 4.12 trillion naira, which is about plus 5% higher than the total FAC allocation made over the corresponding period of last year. Also last week, the International Monetary Fund in its recently released World Economic Outlook, July 2022, retained Nigeria's growth for 2022 at plus 3.4%. The Bretton Woods Organization also reduced the global growth projection by 0.4% from its earlier forecast in April of 3.6% to 3.2%. If you're joining us, it is the Economy and Politics Show, and on our first edition for this month, our focus is August 2022 key socio-economic developments to watch in Nigeria. The first is the foreign exchange market, which is under the purview of the Central Bank of Nigeria and has considered a major talking point in the economic space. Here are some interventions that have been carried out by the Central Bank of Nigeria to date. First is the restriction of FX allocation to 41 plus items with emphasis on boosting domestic production. Pro-share analyst has called for a review of the policy. Then the rollout of the investors and exporters window, and also the Naira for Dollar scheme, which was designed to encourage diaspora remittances. And just recently, the Central Bank of Nigeria rolled out the RT200 program, targeting foreign exchange inflows from non-oil exports, with a view to achieving over $200 billion inflows into the economy. According to Pro-share, following the data released by CBN, forex inflows from the INE window grew by 166% to $2.4 billion in first half of the year 2022 compared to first half of the year 2021. Other actions taken include the ban of FX sales to bureau de change firms last year and the ban on microfinance banks trading FX. There is a school of thought that believes the Central Bank of Nigeria should liberalize the FX market fully and allow market forces to determine the state of affairs. On the other side, there is a school of thought that believes the current approach of managed floats by the CBN is okay. Where they all agree is the need for the Central Bank of Nigeria to ensure transparency in the foreign exchange market activities, especially in their location. At the moment, there are 7 major sectors that could be adversely affected in the third and fourth quarter of the year if the FX issues are not addressed. They include manufacturing, aviation, financial services, agriculture, information and communication technology, trade, and the services sectors. Web TV will continue to monitor developments around the foreign exchange market in this month as it dictates the pace of investment into the economy. Next is insecurity. The spate of attacks in the country carried out by bandits and terrorist groups has raised renewed concerns over the safety of life and properties in the country. Last week, the threat even to the life of the president reinforced the need for a robust collective approach in countering any attack on the state apparatus and the citizens. With the National Security Council meeting convened by the President last week, it is important that the armed forces redouble efforts in dealing with the formation of the bandits and terrorists who are bent on undermining the Nigerian state. The National Assembly Minority Caucus last week threatened to impeach the President if the insecurity issues are not addressed in 6 weeks. It is important that the National Orientation Agency will involve itself in sensitizing Nigerians to cooperate and provide relevant information when they notice activities of the insurgents and protect the nation from any backlash. Several Nigerians are currently relocating to Europe, America, and Asia, but the most important message here is that there is hope for Nigeria, and all stakeholders must come together to fight this common enemy, and there is need for a greater coordination and collaboration amongst the armed forces. The next key development to watch in the month is the fiscal challenges. Nigeria is currently faced with several levels of fiscal challenges, from a soaring debt servicing cost exceeding revenue by 118%, with the retained revenue at 1.63 trillion naira, less than 1.94 trillion naira spent on debt servicing between January and April 2022. This is a debt stability issue. Despite the issues, there has been options provided for the government to explore, which include the financialization of the state assets and the need for the federal government to rejig its fiscal policy and take advantage of an asset-backed debt strategy by a well-respected economist, Dr. Ayoteriba. He has been re-emphasizing the need for the government to follow the path of nations like Brazil and India by listing greenfield assets like what was done in the telecommunications sector. Also, ProShare senior economist Abdul Kudus Isiaka last week on this show said it is time to review the strategic revenue growth initiative, which is not currently realistic, considering the target of a tax-to-GDP ratio of 15% by 2023, which at the moment is not feasible. As clearly stated by ProShare, the hike in debt service to revenue poses a concern considering the mounting debt profile of the country. Analysts expect an intense focus on revenue generation, especially in the non-oil sector, to salvage the impending debt crisis. Last week, it was reported that the federal government is considering a 5% excise duty on calls, SMS, and data. It is important that the federal government focuses on creating more economic opportunities for Nigerians whose purchasing power has been eroded by rising inflation and currency devaluation. Next is fuel subsidy. Nigeria's fuel subsidy regime is one of the biggest drags on the country's public finance system. So far, over 4 trillion naira has been spent by the federal government, and the projection is 6.7 trillion naira for the year 2023. ProShare analysts have noted that in the event that the subsidy regime continues next year, 1.1 trillion naira meant for capital expenditure would have to be utilized to foot the subsidy bill. This will limit the economy's growth projection. This is massive and not sustainable for the nation's economy. With the ongoing reforms in the oil and gas industry, it is expected that efforts will be made to bring our ailing refineries to production capacity, even as we await the full commencement of the 650,000 barrel per day capacity Dangote refinery. The idea should be to attract private capital investments into the state-owned refineries, while it is good that there has been approvals for modular refineries. Also, the transition to a gas-enabled economy as an alternative to fuel is a welcome development, but the bane of the sector has been corruption, and it is important to entrench accountability and governance in the sector. And finally, the ASUU strike. The industrial action of the Academic Staff Union of Universities is another major socio-economic development to watch in August 2022. It's on the verge of reaching 6 months since it commenced in 2022 February. Since 1992, there have been lingering issues unresolved in the agreement between the federal government and ASUU, and the recent solidarity warning strike by the Nigerian Labour Congress reinforced the need for the deadlock to be addressed. Apart from the devastating impact it has on public universities, Nigeria faces a social crisis if the strike is not called off in the third quarter, as over 100,000 students have their academic programs delayed. This is where the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria should intervene and meet the leadership of ASUU with marching orders to resolve the strike, which has been a perennial issue for over 3 decades. To all Nigerians, this is a critical phase in our socio-political history, and with all the challenges faced in the country, we're not isolated from a world of economic uncertainties and a looming recession. For those who want to give up because of the rising cost of living, I want to encourage you to hold on. Let us imbibe a community spirit, reaching out to the helpless and impoverished. To the elites, you may have a plan B to relocate your family from the country, but don't forget that we have only one nation and we need a consensus to move our beloved country forward. Nigeria will flourish again. That will be all for this edition of the Economy and Politics Show. If you have suggestions, comments, and questions on the topic discussed today, August 2022, key socio-economic developments to watch in Nigeria, please send a mail to the email displayed on your screen. Also, you can subscribe to our website, www.proshare.co, to read our latest economic and political discourse, market stories, and of course, watch our videos. Also, follow the social media platforms displayed on the screen. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching, and this is wishing you a fabulous month of August 2022.